I told him if we don't do it at minimum of $100,000 in our first 30 days, like the whole team is fired. And I want to get to $500,000 a month within the first quarter. Flooring is a great business model. I love boring industries. I called it Floor Daddy. It's a huge industry. It's very scalable. I'm a sales and marketing company in the flooring space, and I'm going to scale way faster than everybody else. And I'm just stealing talent from other companies. How much you making over there? 70 grand. Great. You make 90 grand with me. Let's fucking roll. So I'm going to outspend everybody on the marketing. And then I did something that was really smart.
Cody Sperber, I really appreciate you carving out time, man. We are in your studio in Tempe, Arizona. And as you can see, it is normally the Clever Investor Show.
Yes.
But today it's Beyond a Million.
I love it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man.
And you got your signature haircut going on.
we got it. I do. How would people
iconic.
recognize me otherwise?
Yeah, I love it.
You know, it's funny. When I put a hat on, I refer to it as my Clark Kent because legit, the hat makes me disappear and people don't recognize me.
Yeah, well, it's since I've met you, I pretty much am sure you've had a mohawk.
I think it's been like 8 years now.
Oh, then it wasn't since I met you.
No.
Yeah.
Originally, I was nondescript white guy.
Okay.
Named Brad.
Yeah. Well, it's iconic now. I love it.
I appreciate that. So I met you years ago, I think ultimately through Matt Lights when you were just starting Clever Investor.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about that journey a little bit because you built Clever Investor into this monster company where you've trained something like, a phenomenal amount of students on real estate investing.
Well over 100,000 people have come through our program.
Wild amount of people coming through the program that you've taught how to invest in real estate. Before we get into that journey, and you also just sold Clever Investor.
Yep.
So I want to talk about that whole thing.
Hallelujah. I'm just kidding.
I want to talk about the whole thing, but let's start with like the bullets of why did you start Clever Investor in the first place? What was the come up on that?
Yeah, well, I had done real estate for about 8 years at that point. And I just got really good at it. And real estate changed my life. I was the first millionaire in my family, first multimillionaire, was able to retire my parents because of real estate investing. I loved it. I know a lot of people that get into real estate, they don't really like real estate. They just want to make money and they think it's a great vehicle for making money. I not only wanted to make money, I loved real estate. Like I was oddly into architecture and the design element of it and like just taking something old and ugly and turning it into something with value that's beautiful. And so I was so bought in to the concept of real estate. That's all I talked about all the time. Like it drove people crazy. And also when I was a little kid, if you would have asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would have said a history professor because I really love history. And I thought being a teacher would be a great profession. Unfortunately, when I got out of the military, I went and talked to some history professors at San Diego State University and was talking to them about how much money they made. And the conversation didn't end well for me because I was like, oh, you got 2 jobs and you're barely surviving. And maybe this isn't a career path for me. And luckily, I fell into real estate, fell in love with it, knew instantly I was hooked. Like I'll be a real estate guy for the rest of my life. But I got really good at that. I was talking about it so much, driving everybody crazy that everybody in town started to pay attention to me. And over the years, people would come to me and say, will you teach me? Will you show me? How do you use those systems? And my military career taught me the value of systems. I wasn't really a big organized, detailed systems guy until the military. And they got systems for everything. Like you want to shine your shoes, there's a process for that. You make your bed, there's a process for that. I was in navigation. You want to update your charts and clean your station, there's a process. And so I took that into my business. And for 7 years, every Saturday, I did something called Systems Saturday, where I would spend about 4 to 6 hours alone working on a process in my business and documenting everything. This is before I even knew what an SOP was. I was just trying to mirror what I learned in the military and just get this documentation down because I was hoping at some point I could just fire myself, put somebody else in there and just kind of elevate up the food chain as an entrepreneur. And one time, some dude came to me and said, I'll pay you 10 grand to shadow you for a day. And I was like, you're crazy? but okay, give me your money. And that's how Clever Investor was born. It just started off kind of as a side hustle, like, well, fuck, I'm doing this anyway. By the way, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I want to make sure. I don't want to be rude, but I was like, if people are if I'm talking about it anyway, and people are going to pay me for it, let's do this. It fits right in line with my love for teaching and my love for real estate. Little did I know it was going to take off like it did. Clever Investor, we had very early on, we kind of looked at the online education space, which was just being birthed. This is 2009, right? It's just being birthed. There's like a little tiny world of like people doing really shitty teleseminars, and webinars were just coming out, and all this stuff was just happening. And I was just kind of at the right place at the right time at the birth of social media and the transfer of old school gurus, infomercials, live events to this online model. So right place, right time, right industry.
Well, let me ask you about that for a second, because the space existed, right? But like you said, the transition to social media was the big pivot. Really, it was online. But before that, there was Robert Allen, Ron LeGrand, et cetera, et cetera. Were you aware of the info product space before that point in time?
I was, because during those 7 years, how I learned the business is I bought all their shit.
Yes.
Right? Like I flew all over the country going to seminars, and I bought everybody from Al Lowry to, what was the old school big guy that was on all the infomercials? Carlton Sheets.
Oh, yeah.
I bought all those guys. And I eventually landed with the Jack Miller Group, which was an old school guru out of Tampa, Florida. Pete Fortunato, Jack Miller, those guys, they taught off of like projectors and like old school style, right? Like nothing was fancy. And I kind of looked at the space and I was like, oh, this is perfect for this transition. I'm in the right place for this transition online. And I wanted to make, and I had never heard this term before. I don't believe I made it up, but I was definitely using it in 2009, 2010. It was edutainment. Maybe I made it up. I don't know, because I started saying it very early on, and I started saying it on my. I used to record not even on a good camera. There was these old flip cameras, and camcorders. I would record myself on a whiteboard and just documenting how wholesaling works and how this works, and I would put it up on YouTube or I put it up online, and people would go crazy.
So wholesaling was the type of investing you were doing?
That was how I started, because I didn't have any money or resources. So I started where I could.
Yeah.
And then I very quickly realized, okay, I'm selling properties to people and I make $5,000 and they go off and make $55,000.
Yeah. And so the basics of that are you are a lead generation machine. You find the properties, you lock them up with a contract, and then you sell that contract to an investor that actually wants to flip the property.
Yeah, I'm a middleman. I'm like Costco. For people who've never heard of wholesaling, it's like being Costco, right? It's like Costco buys muffins from a person that makes muffins, but they still buy them at a really great price. Like they're getting a discount on bulk muffins. And then when they sell them to the retail buyer, they're still selling at a discount. Right. And so everybody in the transaction is feeling like they're getting a good deal, but Costco's like a middleman that's just making money off the arbitrage of the difference in pricing. And that's what we're doing with houses. And if you're a good marketer, you can find distressed people or distressed properties. You can negotiate a good price, lock them up, flip them to a guy who actually has cash, guy or gal that has money. And those cash buyers or landlords or rehabbers. And a lot of the times I would sell to rehabbers, like the people you see on TV that flip houses, and I would make it $5,000 or $10,000, and they'd make $50,000 or $60,000 or $100,000. And I'm like, you know what? I should probably be rehabbing at some point. Like, let me take some more risk now that I've done this for a year or two. And I started rehabbing. And just like any new business, my wholesaling business took me 14 months to do my first deal. It was a very long learning curve. And I bought $30,000 worth of courses.
Wow.
And I still fucked it all up.
Yes.
And that's just because it's a difficult, and sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes we think we're smarter than we are. We listen to too many people. I bought too many courses. It was like drinking from a fire hose. And it just didn't happen for me until my 14th month. And then it finally happened. And once I did my first deal, everything started to click, and it got really easy to do my second deal and third deal. And next thing you know, I'm probably like, I don't know, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 deals in at this point.
Wow.
But I started with wholesaling, and then I started rehabbing, and I fucked that all up for another year, and made every mistake under the sun. And then I'm like, getting these huge tax bills because now I'm making real money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I am not even doing the one thing that is like one of the real estate has two huge values, cash flow and tax benefits. And I realized I'm not even actually doing real estate. It's like an agent, a real estate agent saying, I'm in real estate. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're a transactional guy that is involved in a real estate transaction, but you don't own the real estate. And when you're wholesaling, you don't own the real estate. And even though when you're rehabbing, you do buy the real estate, it's only for a very short amount of time. So I needed to start keeping rental property. And that's my $600,000 tax bills woke me up of like, hey, you got to start keeping some of this. Because with real estate, you get something called depreciation. Mm-hmm. And like the building we're sitting in right now, I paid $4.25 million for this building. When I bought this building 2 years ago, I would have owed about a couple $1 million in taxes because of my earned income from my other businesses. When I bought this commercial building, I had a choice. I had the money set aside to pay my taxes. I could have just gave the money to Uncle Sam. Right. Let's call it $1 million. Let's say I owed $1 million to Uncle Sam. I could have paid the money to Uncle Sam, or I could go buy a commercial building that my companies can run out of because we're paying either rent or a mortgage anyway. We need a place to run our companies out of. And by the way, everybody listening, the point of owning a business is to own the real estate that the business operates in. You do not want to be somebody who owns a business that rents your office space. If you can avoid it, you want to own it. And here's why. So I would have had to owe $1 million anyway. So instead, I put $1 million down on this commercial building. I go get a loan. My mortgage is $25,000 a month. Okay. This is an 18,000 square foot commercial space. I'm using about half of it to run my businesses out of. I rent out the other half for $21,000 a month in rental income. So now I'm almost running my businesses for free. I have 5 businesses running out of here. Collectively, we pay $4,000 a month to do that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I turned one of the spaces in this into another business, and I turned it into an event center. Now, one of my companies uses event centers, so I needed that kind of a space anyway. But I actually turned it into something that anybody in the public can rent, and I started Event Center for Rent. This month so far, that little event center, 3,300 square foot event center, brought in $62,000.
Damn.
So one of the spaces, I turned into another business that's bringing in tons of cash. So now I'm actually positive cash flow on this asset.
Yep.
And at the same time, I did what's called a cost segregation study on this commercial building, wiped out $1.9 million in taxes.
Yeah. The cost seg component, unfortunately, is degrading right now in our tax code, right? It's been a strong play for the last 20 years, or I don't know how long. It's been a strong play the entire time that I have started to generate wealth, right? But now we're this year down to 60% of the write-off, and then 40, then 20, then gone. Do you have...
That's for bonus depreciation.
Yes, it is.
That's for bonus depreciation. It's not for the real estate. They'll never get rid of the depreciation itself. So commercial real estate, you can depreciate over, I believe, either 39 or 37 years. I don't remember. It's one of those two.
Something like that.
39 years. It's 39 years. And then residential, I believe, is 27 years. And so, there's normal wear and tear on every building.
Yep.
And so if you pay $1 million for the building, they give you 39 years to kind of write off that $1 million. So you can literally take $1 million divided by 39 and write that off against your earned income of that asset every year. With the cost segregation study, all we're doing is the cost seg study says, all right, what is the trusses valued at? What is the electrical switches valued at? What are the doorknobs valued at? And they literally line item almost every piece of the building. Mm-hmm. And then they assign a value to it. And then you can accelerate the depreciation in the first few years. Mm-hmm. So this is why real estate guys like Donald Trump don't pay taxes. And once that light bulb went on, it took me about 5 years, 6 years, flipping real estate, making lots of money, paying crazy taxes, finally waking up and going, I'm so stupid. I'm in the real estate space. I'm not even using the benefits of real estate. And then eventually when I started my education company, because I'm also I own a development company called Green Elephant Development. Mm-hmm. I own a wholesaling business called Sell Quick for Cash. I have all these real estate businesses where I spend at least 50% of my time in real estate. In the eyes of the IRS, I'm considered a dealer. So that means when I started Clever Investor and we scaled to $25 million a year and it was making all this profit, I was offsetting my earned income from this online education business, we taught real estate, but we weren't in real estate.
Right.
I was able to offset that earned income against my real estate holdings over here. And this is why I keep buying commercial assets. This doesn't work as well with residential. Like, I would highly recommend to anybody who's making any significant amount of money, go find single tenant, triple net lease type investments, something very easy, very safe that you can put your money into, where you just get that mailbox money, but you get the depreciation and the tax write-offs associated with it, because you need it. If you're making over $1 million a year in earned income, you need that type of asset to offset it.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the third thing, you mentioned cash flow and you mentioned tax benefits as real estate, as principles for real estate. The third, of course, is appreciation, right? Is that you've got this baked in retirement fund that the value of real estate is going to go up. And it goes in cycles, right? It goes in waves. And right now we're probably in a downstroke, but it's going to go up over time. My question, the first question is, you mentioned a bunch of different businesses. So you're doing investing, and then you said, people keep asking me about how to do this. And you had learned through the old school gurus. So you said, Clever Investor's the next chapter. And you grew Clever Investor to, you mentioned 25 million for the info product brand. At what point in that did you take your eye away from Clever Investor and say, I should open other businesses as well? Because the idea of diversification against the laser focus is a constant challenge for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So first off, like I said, for almost 10 years, I didn't do anything but real estate. It was 8 or 9 years before I even started dabbling in education. And so I am a big fan of staying focused, like starve the ponies, feed the stallions. Like that's the mantra of an entrepreneur. Otherwise, we all lie to ourselves and we think we could do everything. And then all we end up doing is a bunch of shit averagely, and we die a death by 1,000 cuts. So I agree with you, but I was more like strategic vertically. So like I did real estate, and then I asked myself, who else makes money from my real estate transactions? Well, the title company does. Well, let's go buy a title company. The lending company does. Let's start a lending company. Let's make sure we're licensed agents and we build a real estate brokerage and a team. And so we started verticalizing in our space. The only one I didn't really get into was insurance. I started to dabble in it, but we never ended up starting or buying a company in it. So that was my first start in online education. I was teaching real estate investors and building software and data, selling to real estate investors, which was also in the vertical of real estate investing. So I never I wasn't doing real estate and then I jumped over to a whole nother industry.
Sure.
I was building my empire in the space because I knew that space very well. So I did stay somewhat disciplined.
Well, so I love that. And I can think of no short of 5 shiny objects that I would like to go buy that are vertically integrated into my space, but would still result in a slowdown in the core business.
Only if, see, for me, I learned very early on I'm not scared to use money to buy the talent necessary to do the job. So for me, I knew that I shouldn't be in the meetings. I knew that I was the problem in my business. This is why I documented and systematized everything. I needed to fire myself, delegate, automate, delete, get me out of the meetings. I'm a psychopath in meetings. Like, people got so irritated at me that they did, like, my own companies would hold a vote and say, all right, Sperber's not allowed back in the meetings. Because I thought I did a damn good job. I would go up in there and I'd be like, look at, because I'm so crazy about details. Look at this, and you fucked this up, and let's get this better, and we're going to go over here, and we're going to charge this mountain, and da da da. And then I'd leave thinking I did a great job, and then it was pure chaos for the next 6 hours. My whole company was like in shock. And I didn't even realize like that I was the problem. And so I flipped the model to, okay, fuck this. I'm just going to overspend on people I cannot afford and have them tell me how to run this business. And once I finally started thinking like that, the other businesses got better. And I also got really good at forming partnerships. I used to be scared of partnerships. Now partnerships are like the key to my whole entire world. Is I find phenomenal humans that are very talented, much better than me, to run those different divisions. And I tell them, I'm normally the guy that starts it, right? I'm like the visionary, the glue. So I enroll everybody into the vision. That's my skill set: sales, persuasion, influence, enrolling. And then I say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is why we're going to do it. And this, what's in it for you if we do it together. And then I get the fuck out of the way. Right? Because that's what like right now I'm starting you mentioned I sold Clever Investor.
Yes.
I've owned Clever since 2009 and I just sold it last year to another guy in our space. It's, that could take the brand and run with it.
I want to talk about the details of that, but I want to focus on, before we get there, I want to focus on the, how you learned the lesson to get the fuck out of the way. And when you started to pay too much for employees, overpay for employees, because if you're brand new and you misinterpret that message as, let me take more than I have relative to profit to try to buy the best person. If you're brand new and you're at 1 million in revenue and you have a 5% margin, that might bankrupt you.
Yeah, well, you got a shitty business anyway. It's like
that's fair.
Yeah,
Where were you at that point when you got there?
My thing is, we were making money. I should never be the guy with the answers. As the owner of a company, I shouldn't roll into a meeting and say, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. Like, the main vision is, this is where we're going. Like, I have clarity on, like, we're going to do this business and we're going to hire these teams and we're going to do this stuff. But the technical details upstream, I should not be involved in, like, all the details on, like, making it happen. So, for instance, me getting kicked out of all the meetings, me showing up to meetings and looking at, like, my C and B squad that I thought these are people I can afford at the time. And I'm realizing I know more than all you motherfuckers. Why am I the one with the solution to the problem? You should be telling me what to do, not me telling you what to do. So it was me just failing with the wrong people and getting pissed off and being like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. My job as an entrepreneur is to recruit the greatest talent and humans possible and put them on the team, find the right seat on the bus for them, get them in alignment with my vision, their vision of the future, point them in the right direction, give them the resources and training they need, and get the fuck out of the way. So, like, for instance, take a great operations guy. Maybe I can afford a $80,000 a year operations guy, but I really want to get the $150,000 a year operations guy. Mm-hmm. Most people would say, well, we can only afford the $80K person, so let's pull the trigger. It's a good enough candidate. Let's try them. Yep. I immediately go, fuck that. Let's get the $150,000 to $200,000 a year operations guy that we cannot afford. Let's, that person has already been running in a business that's doing $10+ million a year. We're at $2 million. The 80K guy has only done $2 million a year businesses. They're at the same fucking level as us. Like, no, let's stretch. Because the way I think about it is hire slow, fire fast, give them the resources they need. If they suck, they're 2-3 months in before I'm sitting them down going, how the fuck do you not know what to do? Right? Like, you now had enough time to get to know our world. You should be making progress at this point. And just think about it. Any person, doesn't matter where they are in your organization, if they make $20 an hour and I'm paying you $20 an hour, because we're in a capitalistic system, you're producing me $80 an hour worth of value, or you're fucking done. Like, you're fired. I should never be in a situation where all of the revenue from that $20 an hour person goes back to that person.
Beyond a Million is brought to you by Easy Pay Direct. If you're an entrepreneur and you are still using a product like Stripe or PayPal to accept payments, it is time to find out why the largest names in your industry would never consider doing that. Check out easypaydirect.com/BAM to find out more.
With an important role like operations, would you rather have a mediocre person in the role or no person in the role?
Why would there be no person in the role?
Because if you have a mediocre person and you're in pursuit of a great person, there might be a gap.
Well, a couple things. In my organizations, my hiring machine, it never shuts off. A lot of people go, all right, we got a position. We got to fill it. Let's ramp up the marketing and put out the ads on Indeed and LinkedIn and all this stuff. And let's go find somebody for it. Once I find that person, I put them in there. I just keep the ads running in perpetualness. perpetualness in perpetuity.
Nice.
Yeah.
We both got there.
Whatever. You get what I'm saying. And that's because I always want that same better candidates coming through the door. And I literally would parade them by the other operations guy. Be like, hey, here's another operations guy. You want to have a meeting with them? See if they're a good fit for our organization? What's he going to do? Whatever the fuck we need him to do. Take us to the next level. Maybe take your job. I don't know. But whatever. I want the best talent, always seeing that there's great talent coming, so they're always gunning. And so that's number one. I don't think I would be in a position where there's nobody in the spot. And if there was somebody mediocre, I would keep hustling as hard as I could to fill that role with a better person.
Yeah. Before you got rid of them, or?
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's ever been a situation where I've just outright fired somebody. If they lie to me or steal from me, they're fired on the spot.
Yeah.
Right. So like those are non-negotiables for me. But I've never been in a situation where like this space was just empty unless I screwed something up and they left. Or I had one guy pass away who was a phenomenal marketing guy.
Oh my God.
That was very hard on our company. Like our whole company felt that one. But that was the only situation I can ever think of where it was like we weren't prepared.
Okay, so what was your size or scope when you had this huge mindset shift?
I was probably at like the $3 or $4 million a year mark. We were doing well.
Yeah,
money was coming in fast. We were scaling every year. We were making $1 million or $2 million more than the previous year. So we just kept growing and growing. And it's not like today, like online education today, you can go from 0 to 40 million in like 2-3 years pretty quickly because the blueprint and model is now there. And if you have a really strong organic social brand, you can scale very fast with online education. When I started, there was no framework. It was like me grinding it out, trying different things to see what works. So I was the trailblazer on the front end of it. So we would do 2 million next year, we do 4 million next year, 6 million. And we kind of stair stepped up like that. And then we finally, around the 6th or 7th year is when we finally like launched. But yeah, I think just listening to this podcast, take a note and just realize your job as the lead entrepreneur is you are the official enroller of your company. And you need to force your people to hire the best and constantly push yourself way outside your comfort zone. Your CFO, if you're trying to go to 50 million, your CFO should be a $50 million a year CFO. Not the guy who's never done that before, but you can afford.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's a good takeaway, I think, for a lot of people. Do you think that you should, as a bootstrap entrepreneur, do you start by hiring people that are more expensive than you can afford, or do you wait until some point to do that?
Yeah, I would say if you can't afford them, give them equity. If you're just starting and you want to do the lean entrepreneur startup, give people equity. Don't be scared to give very highly talented people equity. And just have a buyout provision that says, look, if shit doesn't work with us, I'll buy you out. If 2 years in, you ain't my guy, and I got to use that equity for somebody else, I'll buy you out. But equity is the tool to help you do more with less. Otherwise, you can bootstrap it and just try to do the best you can. But then all roads need to focus on sales. A lot of people have it backwards. A lot of people try to get the perfect widget, the perfect product, the perfect online course, and then they go to market hoping that the market wants that project or product. I do the opposite. I kind of test things with marketing to see what it is that the world wants. Then I sell the shit out of it, and then I go backwards and build it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'll sell something that doesn't even exist yet, and then create it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it's kind of like what like Kanye West right now did something really, really smart. So he ran a Super Bowl ad, he paid millions of dollars for the Super Bowl ad, but spent all the money on the ad that he shot like an ad itself just from his cell phone. It was like, hey, it's Kanye, got some shit for sale on my website. I don't have anything else to say, right? It was like this really short, really organic feeling like conversation. Well, he sold, I don't remember what it was, but it was like $40 million or $30 million, $20 million worth of shit.
Yeah.
Instantly. Well, all that
on
stuff,
day one.
instantly.
Yep.
but it was all pre-order. When you actually go through it, what was really smart about it is that he hadn't even built the product yet. He sold everything on his website for $20. So imagine if I had 5 items and they're all $20. A couple smart things is happening there. One, I'm going to be able to see if I drive 4 million people to my website overnight because of the Super Bowl ad, and I get, 100,000 customers out of it, all at $20. It's like I can see, one, where all those customers came from. I now have 4 million people that I pixeled from my website that I'm going to follow around forever and sell more shit to. I have 100,000 buyers in my database that have all their contact information I'm going to sell more shit to. I'm going to be able to see out of the 5 products I stacked all for $20, which one is the one that everybody bought. So now I'm going, they all want the shoes. Fuck these other ones. I'm just going to go in massive production of the shoes. It's like market research done in a really creative way. And they were all pre-orders. So instead of having to come out of pocket to create all this shit, he just, does it backwards. Yeah, it was really a smart move.
The other elements that I didn't know. I didn't know that it was $20 each. The market research side of that's really cool. I also didn't know that it was pre-ordered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a trip. Okay, so let's go to, I want to talk about the marketing of Clever Investor in 2009. You've hit on this a couple times where it's like, there was a previous model for info products and it was, honestly, you still see the radio ad model that like Fortune Builders did that did very well in the preview model. But you had infomercials and mailers, and this was the OG education space. And Tony Robbins came up in that space that way.
Yeah.
You started and launched heavy with, you were one of the first people that I saw effectively market on Instagram and build a brand.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And you're still doing that today in a different way. What has changed in your approach to marketing on Instagram from when you started to today?
So, it's interesting because, sales and marketing are the most important things that you could do in your business, right? But like, which one comes first, sales or marketing? And I kind of looked at it like, if we could generate enough noise on this new thing called social media through just a barrage of content creation. I was very early on when Instagram was first coming out. I had seen some other people, and this is back, those same people now have 10, 12, 14 million followers on their pages. But back when I caught them, they had 100,000, which to me was an insane amount of followers.
Yeah.
I'm a guy with, 50 followers, looking at somebody with 100,000 thinking, these people aren't even famous. How did they get this?
Yeah.
And their whole world was built on collaboration. And I realized very quickly that the whole network, and it was like a good old boys network, they all collaborated with each other. And if I followed these 20 pages, I realized all 20 pages were what they called it a shout out. Mm-hmm. They were shouting each other out. In other words, they were posting each other's content in a very organized fashion, basically sharing followers amongst the group. And I saw that and I was like, oh, this is a marketing platform. This is to me, it was never social. It was marketing. If I can create the right type of content to get people excited about real estate, I could pull them off of this social platform into my world. And so I started creating a whole bunch of lead magnets, eBooks, flow charts, free contract packages, free courses, whatever I can think of that was really good value. And I started creating content that would tease what I was doing, right? I would build up a story on how I made $30,000 flipping a house, and I would create content around it, and then I'd give away a book, like a free ebook or something like that. And I was one of the first to do this because it wasn't really well known in 2010, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. I think I really started gunning in 2012, right when Instagram was just like, it's still on chronological feed.
Yeah.
And so I started investing heavily into building that platform. I stopped doing almost everything else. I stopped YouTube. I stopped LinkedIn. I stopped Facebook. I just said, I'm going to dominate Instagram and put all my love and attention into it. And whenever you do that, that platform is going to start to thrive. And so I made a decision. I'm going to post a minimum of 3 times a day. My goal was 6.
Wow.
I'm going to do it every single day of the week, regardless of how I feel. I'm going to utilize every feature that Instagram comes out with. So, for instance, like when they came out with lives, I was live all the time. When they came out, with stories, I was just posting insane amount of stories. Whatever they were pushing, reels, I started pushing reels really heavy as soon as they came out, because I knew that whatever new feature they were coming out with, that's what they were going to want to promote and get the users used to using.
Yeah.
So I was always like very aware that I was going to outperform everybody on that platform. I started reaching out to all of that good old boy network and buying my way in. I think about money way different than most people. I was like, I can either spend money on a radio ad, a TV ad, a mailer, or I can pay these kids who have 100,000, 300,000, 500,000 followers at the time to shout me out, right? So, because at first I was like, hey, let me in the club. And they're like, dude, you got 35 followers. We don't want you in this club.
Right.
I was like, well, then fuck you. Here's money. I was making a lot of money in real estate. Like, I'll buy my way in. And they're like, well, what do you want to pay for a shout out? I'm like, I don't know, $50. And they're like, fuck yeah. They were thinking like, I'm crazy. You're going to give me $50. How many times are you going to do this? Every day of the week for the next 2 years. They're like, cool. What I didn't realize is this kid is in 10th grade in his class, texting me or DMing me or whatever. We're negotiating rates of like a shout out on a page that this high school kid owns.
Amazing.
And all of a sudden the shout out business was born.
Yeah.
And I was putting at my peak, about 3,000 to 5,000 a day in shout outs. And this is, if you look at my social graph, it's like 2012, 13, 14, 15. All of a sudden, I'm at 1 million followers. So I was the first real estate influencer in the world to hit 1 million followers, which is how everybody got to know me. I got that blue check mark in 2017. I'm not one of these, people that paid for it. It just magically appeared one day because I was an influencer in our real estate space. But all along that journey, I created a reinvestment business, meaning like I would buy a shout out, they would shout me out, I'd have all this great content on my page, but then I'd start posting these free ebooks and these free giveaways. So people were pulling off of the platform just as fast as they were following me. And as soon as they downloaded that ebook, it would say, hey, congratulations, your ebook will be in your email inbox in 15 minutes or so. Until then, you've earned a free class with Cody. And I was one of the first investors in the country to build out an automated webinar funnel. And I was basically just giving away free shit that led to an automated webinar that sold a $497 course. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was making probably by 2015, 2016, I was pulling about $3 to $4 million a year off of just giving away one ebook.
Crazy.
On Instagram. So it's like every time I made money, I would turn around and just buy more shout outs.
Yeah.
And it just kept the machine going.
Yeah. So what's different now? Because you're still really active on Instagram, and now you're moving from Clever Investor. You're about to do it again, right? You're moving from Clever Investor to
I'm just elevating. I'm just
official
elevating
Cody
the brand.
Sperber.
Yeah. So anyways, the online education business is a tough business to be in. But it teaches you a lot of great skills. While I was doing the social thing, I was also mastering the purchasing of cold traffic. I was the first big guy in our space to ever heavily advertise on Facebook and YouTube. I had the Lambos in front of the bank with my kids. I'm showing up checks. I'm throwing money all over. I'm just making noise. And like that edutainment model, I was fun. I was crazy. I was wild. I was in your face. And we were spending about $4 million a year on just Facebook ads. All the way up, 2014, 15, 16, we were outspending everybody. And this is how we scaled to 25 million. So my brand was blowing up. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew who I was, the clever investor. And I was really good at, by the way, you need a hook. Everybody needs a hook. If I meet you and you don't have your mohawk and you have your hat on and you're like, hey, I'm Brad, I'm going to forget your name.
Yep.
Right? But if every time I met you, it's like, hey, what's up? I'm Mohawk Brad. I'm never going to forget Mohawk Brad. If you say that enough times to me, it's ingrained in my brain.
Yep.
So every time somebody talked to me, every time I signed off of a video, hey, I'm out of here, Cody Sperber, Clever Investor, out. I said it so many times that people don't even call me Cody. They're like, what's up, Clever? It's like, oh, okay, my branding worked. But I did such a good job that eventually I sold Clever Investor last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm still, by the way, still heavily involved in the company. I love my students. I want to continue to, I'll always be a teacher at heart. I never want to go too far away from helping people break free using real estate. I love that business. And like I said, we've had thousands and thousands of successful testimonials come in because of our work. And I'm very proud of that. But it's like, who am I? Am I Cody Sperber, the Clever Investor? Forever?
Right.
Like what's Cody 2.0? And last year I went through a divorce. My mom passed away last year. It was a really tough year. And, it started a little over a year ago. And then you sell your company and it's like, what's my identity? What do I want my future legacy to be? And through that journey, I've really put in a lot of work on myself. Like I used to work all the time and that was it. Like I was just so focused and obsessed with kicking ass and hitting my goals and winning the money game. And I think that's great. And you should, and financially, you should make financial success an obligation. But I learned through my journey that I also hurt a lot of people along the way. And so now I'm kind of like this Cody 2.0. I've done insane amount of hours of therapy, EMDR, horse therapy, acting therapy, one-on-one therapy, somatic release breath work. I'm in a fucking cold plunge every morning. I'm staring at red lights and running 6 miles a day. I got my health game on point. My spiritual game's on point. I'm closer with my kids than I've ever been. And while I want to go out there and murder it, I want to be murdering it in all pillars of my life, not just my business. And I think I know you can. I used to think that balance was a myth. Like there's no fucking way you can balance. And while maybe perfect balance is a myth, I do think that it's very possible if you get your psychology right and you go upstream and you just heal your shit a little bit, you just become a better man, that you can have a great spiritual connection, a great connection with your wife or your husband, be an unbelievable father or mother, murder it financially, and be a good human to your friends and society. Yeah. You don't have to pick one and just dominate in one. We do that because we're in pain. We do that because trauma, we're hiding. All life is suffering, right? All life is suffering. And we either turn to religion, we turn to a short-term thing like a distraction, art, sports. These are distractions of our real life and our real suffering. Vices like alcohol, drugs, porn, gambling. So it's you're either doing the really toxic negative shit, you're doing the let me zone the fuck out and just forget about my shit, or you're getting so heavy in like religion, you're okay, there's a purpose behind all of this, and I'm gonna put my faith in something else that I can't even see in order to try and feel better about my suffering, right? And I took the path of like, okay, I'm going to go upstream and I'm just going to heal myself. And in that way, when I show up as Cody 2.0, I'm going to have a much different conversation than banks, Lamborghinis, fucking money, real estate, let's go, murder it, work, right? This like masculine work ethic type of energy.
Yeah.
Now mine's more like, I want to work hard and fuck hard and love hard and be the best friend you've ever had in your entire life. And I want to give $1 million away to save fucking elephants. And, I'm in alignment with my purpose. I'm in alignment with my words. My integrity is intact. Everything is there. So now that I'm there, I'm like, I didn't shut down. I sold off the Clever Investor page on Instagram and I started official Cody Sperber. And it was my opportunity to have a fresh voice and a fresh start. But it's the same principles. Posting multiple times a day, having authentic conversations. I'm not trying to be any other voice than mine. I'm talking about the things that are important to me that I think will advance humanity in a positive way. Not just the money stuff, but I'm talking about my pain. I'm just being very vulnerable and upfront and honest with everybody. And a lot of people are resonating with it. I'm showing them through my standards and my example that your words are cheap. You need to put in the action, right? So every morning they're watching me go on a 6-mile run. They're watching me go to the gym. They're watching me do all my morning routines and eating healthy and all that stuff. And then I go here and I show them behind the scenes of like me cutting a $30 million real estate deal. Mm-hmm. And then I go and I spend hours and hours with my kids, and I'm just documenting everything to show people like this is the standard that we need to step up and live up to. My new business is called Floor Daddy.
Okay, so I have to double click on the transition to 2.0, Cody. The Floor Daddy thing I want to talk about too, because it's I think all business models are fascinating, and why you pick one versus another is also fascinating. But the question that comes to mind when you talk about transforming into Cody 2.0 and going from the entrepreneur that's just driven, focused on business, into, you use 2 words, balance and alignment. And I lean very heavily in the direction of alignment over balance, because I want things to all work together. But the question is, do you think that when you were launching the business, you could have found the balance and driven it the same way that you did and grew it to the same place you did?
No.
Or do you think it was necessary to go through that path?
And nor would I wanted to. I didn't want to be a great family guy. I didn't want to have a spiritual connection. When I said I hid my pain and achievement, I literally only felt comfortable kicking ass and dominating. I had so much crazy, youthful, kick-ass energy that I literally bulldozed everything in my way. It was like a light switch. If you helped me get closer to my goal, it was on. If you at all impeded on my vision of where I was going and becoming a billionaire and like whipping ass, then whatever the consequence to you was going to be the consequence to you. Like, I'll kill the relationship real fast. That kind of obsessive energy is what it takes to get a company and really scale it. But I lost a lot by doing that. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are on their second and third marriages because of it. The thing that makes you great, those demons that make you great, are the ones that also limit your full potential. And unfortunately, we got to learn the lesson. We're too hard-headed. Like, yeah, somebody could have told me. I wouldn't have listened. I could have got slapped. I would have eventually went back to my old ways. A guy like me needs ran the fuck over. I need to lose my family, get a divorce. My mom dies in my arms. I'm a fucking disaster. I can't even like hold my shit together. I have anxiety all the time. I'm pissed off at everything. I'm always angry. For me to finally surrender and go, okay, this is too much. None of this is worth this for me to live this way. I'm accomplishing on social media. I look like the fucking man, but behind the scenes, I'm a disaster. And I'm unhappy, and I'm like, I'm not going to do this for 40 more years. I just had to get there and to do the therapy, because now, like, I process different because I feel different about myself. The big lesson I learned in therapy, and the reason my marriage failed and all that, and my business partnerships were okay, but not world class like they could have been. Mm-hmm. Why I never went off and made $1 billion is because I was in my own way. I hurt relationships because you cannot give what you do not have. And what I mean by that is I couldn't, like, if we were business partners, I couldn't give you the real unconditional love that you deserve in this partnership because I don't even unconditionally love me. Mm. And so I walked around with this armor on, always protecting myself a little bit, right? Because I was hurt as a kid. And so it's like, yeah, we're going to do okay because we're two badasses, but we're never going to be full potential badasses because I was carrying around this shit. Now, I don't feel any of that weight. I don't do anything. Like, I don't fucking talk to a girl on a DM. I don't go to a strip club. I don't look at porn. I don't do anything out of alignment of my character. Like, I am so dialed the fuck in of like, this is who I want to be. I've made those mistakes. I've lived lies. I've done white lies. I've done full-blown lies. I fucked stuff up. I've set the worst standard for many people in my life. And I look back and I'm like, I don't regret it, but it hurt a lot of people. And I'm just not willing to go back there ever again. So when I say I'm in alignment with my purpose and my words and my thoughts and my actions, this is the first time in my life I'm fully there. Now I know I'm going to get to where I want to go. Like, it's a certainty. I'm not like guessing anymore. It's not like, can I scale my online education business to 50 million instead of 25 million? Well, maybe if we work hard enough and come up with a game plan. I'm like, no, we're starting and scaling this fucking flooring business in the home services space. And I'm going to sell this in 3 years for 100 million. And everybody's going to watch me do it. And it's done deal. Like, I already visualized myself at the bank, $100 million in my account. Done 3 years from today.
So tactically speaking, you go through a lot of pain and trauma, and you've outlined some of that relative to divorce, your relationship, family, death, kids. When you look at living in complete alignment and integrity today, was there a process that you can outline or some steps that would help people say, I'm not sure who I am or what my values are exactly? How did you get to the point of saying,
simple.
These are the things that are integrity for me that I have to be in alignment with?
That's a great question. Look, just think like a traffic signal. We all know what green light behavior is. Green light behavior, you feel great. Right? You feel great. You do. You go to the gym, you feel great. You eat good, you feel great. You have a real conversation with your best friend that's authentic and you're present, you're not on your phone and you're fucking connecting, you feel great. We also know what red light behavior is. Red light behavior is you fucking lied to your wife and on the way home, you went to a strip club. Okay, we know that that's a fucked up thing in a relationship, right? You shouldn't do that. You should not lie to your loved ones. And then you cover it up with more lies. That's red light behavior. Where people start fucking up is in the yellow light space. They get comfortable putting their toe in the red light area, right? They're like, it's like that secret shit that nobody else knows, right? It's like, okay, if I do this, nobody's going to fucking find out. And then you get used to doing that. It gets a little easier, but then that even you numb out to that and you got to push it a little more and you got to push it a little more. And this is why people become addicted to food and gambling and porn and all this other crazy shit, is because it's not like you go from like zero to like a complete shit show, right? All in one day. It's this yellow light behavior. And so I would say your intuition is screaming at you right now. You know what you need to be doing. Intuition is God's voice just coming through you. So just pay attention and make the decision of what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be a person of integrity? Do you keep the promises you made to yourself? Or are you one of these weak motherfuckers that every New Year sets a resolution and then by the end of January, you're already off on a tangent because you're so weak mentally that you cannot even keep the promises you made to yourself. So a lot of times we break character because we're still in pain. We want to get in shape. We want to start and scale that business, but we're scared to do it. But we want to do it. We want to have a better relationship with our wife. We're not able to do it because all you're doing is setting a good intention, but you still have the same you rolling into that goal. You need to go backwards and go heal your shit and go, okay, how do I show up with a different program? And a lot of times when I'm working with entrepreneurs, they think I'm going to come in and go, okay, here's the secret to success. We're going to do this tactical thing, 1, 2, 3. But really what I do is I try to understand their life. What are your habits? How's your family life? How's your spiritual game? How's your health game? How's this? And through asking a million questions just about them, I start to unpack you're not even ready for the next level. Even if I told you and put you on game, you're not there yet. So I have to just help you shift your psychology 1 degree to get you there. So maybe the first 6 months of our relationship, you think I'm going to go teach you how to be a real estate millionaire? And all I do is fucking make you work out and go to church and be a better human being and go get the EMDR therapy and drink a gallon of water a day and stop being a fat motherfucker. Whatever it is I'm doing is prepping us for that moment in the 7th month where I'm like, all right, now you're ready to become a real estate millionaire. Get what I'm saying?
I do. And are you saying that because you feel like until you're in that place, you aren't going to make the right choices when the opportunities come up?
Yeah, maybe you will, and maybe you won't. But I demand the best out of you. And my goal, if I'm going to mentor you, is to turn you into a badass motherfucker that actually can sustain that energy and that. Well, I like it's, you know, we've all heard this phrase, like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's like, well, kind of. It's a marathon full of a bunch of sprints. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to waste my time with somebody that, you know, quits halfway through the first sprint because mentally they can't handle the pain or the hard work, or they can't stay focused long enough, or they have all these bad fucking habits that are distracting them all the time and pulling them back to their old ways. And I only know this because I did the exact same thing. And I'm like looking around at my rich buddies going, they're not better than me. They're not smarter than me. They're not faster than me. Why are they so much further ahead than me? Mm-hmm. It's because they have already fucked up enough stuff to finally do the exact thing that I finally did. And I went and worked on my shit and you're only going to rise to your highest level of personal development. And that's a lot of times where I start, because just, I know I want an outcome for you and you want an outcome for you, but you don't have the software download to get us there.
So that's what you're working on with Cody 2.0.
That's what I'm sharing with Cody 2.0. Cody 2.0, I've been working on it for the last 2 years. I misspoke earlier because I'm used to saying my mom died last year. It was actually 2 Septembers ago. But it was just like, since that day, I've been working on it, and I'll never. It's a lifelong thing now. I work on it every day. Trust me, I want to bitch out so many times. Like this morning, I didn't want to go for my run. The second that little voice started creeping up, I was like, "Fuck, just go put your shit on." Because the second I'm standing outside and all my shit, I'm going. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
But if I'm sitting in my nice warm house, and by the way, I go for my runs. I start at like 5 a.m, 4:45, 5 a.m. Then I go early because I watched David Goggins speak one time. And he told a story about how he runs early in the middle of the night when nobody else is up. And as he's running by houses and everything's turned off and it looks all warm and cozy in the house and the cars are empty and the street lights are barely on, and he just runs by every house and he just looks in there and he just says, "Yeah, I'm stealing your fucking soul today." Then he runs by the next house and he goes, "Give me your fucking soul." He runs by the next house. "I'm stealing your soul." And he goes, "I'm just out there running, stealing souls in the middle of the night." And I was like, that's the baddest ass mofo thing I've ever seen. I want to do that.
So I really, really, really relate to physical analogies because I've done a little bit of endurance stuff. And so I know the crossover between these. Can you give me an example in your world of the kind of persistence that you're talking about with getting up and running, but in business?
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking me. So like, how do I apply my mental fortitude and discipline over to business?
Yes.
Well, originally it came from pain of being broke. Right. Yeah. So that was the original motivation was never let's go get rich. It was let's stop being broke.
So that's actually one of the most important things for me right now, personally, and for a lot of people that I know. It's very common for entrepreneurs to get to a point where they see success, or, like if the first chapter is how do I not be broke, then maybe the next chapter is how could I retire right now if I want to? And then the next chapter is...
Yeah. Complacency kills progress and motivation.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd say we've seen this happen dozens of times in businesses. You look at Blockbuster, you look at Kodak, and you're like, God, these guys were industry leaders, but they got complacent. They got comfortable, and comfort and complacency kills all motivation. This is why I never allow myself to... I never allow myself to lose that underdog energy. I always force myself so far out of my comfort zone I'm always against the wall. always feeling uncomfortable, always scared to walk in the room and talk to those people. I used to think, God, if I invested in a mastermind and it was 10 grand, that's crazy. And then it was like, well, what are the, I now know the 10 grand people and I met all them and I'm like one of them now. What's the 25 grand mastermind people like? Are they different? And then I'd be around them. I'm like, yeah, they're a little bit different. They're playing the game at a little bit higher level. Well, what is the 100K mastermind people like? Because if they all put 100K into this thing, you got to be a bad motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get myself around them, and just through proximity, I would level up and got used to that. But I kept putting myself in these rooms where it was so uncomfortable that I didn't want to talk to anybody because I thought, fuck, I'm not supposed to be here. But I always used money as a tool to force me to be there. Get an ice bath. If anybody's listening right now and is like, I'm kind of losing a little bit of that edge, just get a fucking ice bath and every day force yourself in it. It's great for mental fortitude.
Yeah.
And it's a great reminder of like, we operate at our best as entrepreneurs when we're in the fucking mud.
Yeah.
And everything sucks and nothing's working. You want to get the most out of Cody Sperber? I need to know that there's payroll and a credit card bill due in 2 weeks. Right? And I'm going to gun. And somehow, some way, I'm going to figure that shit out.
Got it. Velocity of action. So you're just moving things along so that you have to take the next step to keep things pushing forward.
Yeah. And take this new flooring business. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited to talk about this. So yes. Why flooring?
Yep. So just to reset the frame here, you sold Clever Investor, which you had been building for 12 years, mm-hmm. something like that?
14 years.
14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got you had mentioned earlier, you've got an identity thing going on because you're like, all this shit's transitioning in my life. And as with tons of entrepreneurs, you sell it and your identity is wrapped up in the company that you built for 14 years. So you're looking at Cody 2.0, the next chapter, and you decide to get into flooring.
Yeah, why flooring?
Why flooring?
Well, and I do still own like 4 other businesses that are doing really well. So this isn't like I had nothing to do and I decided to go in flooring.
Sure.
I had plenty to do in my real estate shit, but I love the flooring business. So first off, I like to do businesses that are not easily disruptible in the very near future. I like future-proof businesses. That's why I like real estate. People will always need a place to live. Well, AI's coming out. It's going to destroy like at least 50% of every job out there is going to be outsourced to AI, at least white collar jobs. But the home services industry has a long way to go before AI. You would need full-fledged, Elon Musk robots to come along to do this. So for now, it's not going to be disrupted. You're always going to need a plumber. You're always going to need a roofer. You're always going to need, people will always be upgrading their house, right? And flooring is a great business model. It's an old industry that is very boring. I love boring industries that I can come and through my marketing creativity, disrupt the shit out of them. That's why I called it Floor Daddy. Sexy floors, affordable prices, quality install. I could just picture commercials. Like we're already kind of modeling out commercials of like, how to push the kind of the sexiness of it. It's like, what floor daddy do you want to come install your flooring? You want, the Mexican floor daddy, the black floor daddy. He rolls up with that thick wood, installs it. The wife's like winking in the background, just being a little playful with it. But that industry is easily disruptible. It's tried and true, meaning the business model is the business model. It's whoever outmarkets everybody else gets the leads. And then it's the same business model as my online education business, identical. You generate an online lead through cold traffic or building a brand. It goes to a funnel. A book call happens. A phone guy goes, let's get a guy out there. A salesperson comes, does an in-home presentation, and sells a high-ticket item. There's built-in financing, right? No interest, no payments for 24 months. The industry is perfect for it right now because housing's unaffordable. Interest rates are high. There's a lack of inventory, so people are not selling as much as they used to. And their wife is looking at the husband and saying, well, you promised me you were going to buy me a new house, but since we're not moving, fix this shit. right? So there's a lot of that going on. And even the ones that buy the new house, hey, this is nice, but this isn't our house. Let's upgrade it and fix it. So it's a huge industry, very big market. It's very scalable too. I'm going to dominate Arizona, and then we're going to move to a couple other markets in the Southwest.
So the big differences in that model that I see right away are huge human component. You've got to have installers, right? The other is...
We're outsourcing that, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so so that's a big part of it. And then inventory is the other, and inventory management.
Nope. You think that.
I would.
Go sign up for Shaw. Go sign up for any of the big flooring companies. They'll warehouse all your shit. They already have the warehouse component infrastructure nationwide. You just need to get qualified to be a rep for them, a distributor for them. But I can roll in with, the Mohawk and the Shaw products and all that, and do my in-home presentations, sell their shit, and have next day install because they got 3 giant warehouses here in Phoenix. So it's and that's in every major metropolitan area. They got every, I probably am signed up with 12 different flooring and carpet and tile companies. I don't need to warehouse. Now, eventually, could I get better pricing at scale if I have my own warehouses? Yeah. But in the beginning, I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking I'm going to outmarket everybody. I'm a sales and marketing company in the flooring space, and I'm going to scale way faster than everybody else. And you know what's going to happen? So step 1 was come up with the idea. Step 2 is build my partnership team, because I'm not going to run a flooring company, because I remember earlier I said, fire myself, get myself out. So I went and found 3 partners, gave them equity. We all own the business together. It was my idea. I put up the money, but I gave them equity. We're all dividing and conquering. You go handle installations. You go handle operations. You go handle, you're going to do the daily CEO type stuff. All right. And then immediately I looked around and said, who are my biggest players, my biggest competitors in the space? And I'm going to go steal all their fucking best people. That's the next phase, is tell everybody in town, I got more money than you motherfuckers. I'm going to outspend everybody on the marketing. I'm cooler than you. We're Floor Daddy. All of a sudden, the number 1 sales guys start jumping over. The number 1 the number 1 phone guys, the number 1 in-person guys, the big operations people from these other things. Yeah, how much you making over there? 70 grand. Great. You make 90 grand with me. Let's fucking roll. Like, that's it. I'm not playing games. I had to buy the Floor Daddy domain from some dude who originally said 10 grand. By the time I'm done, he wanted 14 grand. And I'm like, you little fucking weasel. But I don't care, because in the bigger picture, I'm selling in 3 years for $100 million. You think $14,000 is going to stop me? No, I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking like, time is valuable. Let's get momentum. I want to get us to, because we launched to the public in probably maybe by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be like 2-3 weeks from now, we'll be launching. I told him, if we don't do a minimum of $100,000 in our first 30 days, like, the whole team is fired. Like, you're all fucking idiots. So, and I want to get to $500,000 a month within the first quarter. So that's a very aggressive marketing and scaling budget. We have to get a lot of processes dialed the fuck in before that. But I'm just stealing talent from other companies. And then I did something that was really smart. I found a big flooring guy in another state that's doing $2.5 million a month in flooring right now. And they just opened up a window division, and they're about to go into the blind space as well. And I went and I found this company, and I said, and they're in like 2 or 3 states right now. I said, hey, I want to hire you. I cold call this person. I want to hire you as a consultant for me. I'm over in Arizona starting a flooring business. I just exited another company for 8 figures. I'm doing well. Like, I have huge, I own 750 doors, 50 luxury Airbnbs, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate. I'm that guy. And we're going to kick ass in the flooring business. He's like, okay, I'm listening. I said, I want to pay you 15 grand a month for a 1 hour a week phone call with you. Why would you do that? I said, because you're going to buy me someday. He's like, what do you mean? And I said, have you had offers for your business? He said, yes. I said, have they been 9-figure offers? He said, yes. I said, great. Why didn't you sell? I'm not ready yet. We're going to expand into these other niches, and I'm going to get way more. I said, oh, you're going to get way more, because I'm going to get to $2 million a month, and you're going to acquire me at that moment. So I'm already thinking about the end. Maybe the guy does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. And maybe I'll want to, and maybe I won't. But I'm already thinking, like, how do I get this guy to want to give me $100 million 3 years from today? Right? Or I'll roll up into you. We immediately sell to private equity and you get whatever, and I get my 100 million. That's how I'm thinking about this business. And then I went out and bought Cabinet Daddy, Solar Daddy, fucking Roofing Daddy, all the daddies, because I'm already thinking about the lead gen infrastructure. So that way, as Floor Daddy is scaling and I'm spending $300,000-$400,000 a month on advertising, generating a couple $1 million in business while I'm already in your house. Hey, have you thought about getting solar? Have you thought about upgrading this? We have Cabinet Daddy, our sister company, can come put all your cabinets in for you. We got Window Daddy that can come do the windows because windows have a very high margin. So I'm just mirroring like the blinds, windows, the things that these other guys that are further along than me, and just, okay, let's just build the whatever daddy infrastructure of the lead machine, because that's what's buyable and valuable. Once I build that brand and everybody in town sees those Floor Daddy vehicles driving all over the damn place, it's game the fuck over.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing the vision.
Will you be my merchant processor?
I think that we could probably handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting for you to come here. I really need it.
I love it. I love it. We'll make it happen. All right. I know we're coming at time here. What would you have done differently through your journey, if anything? So you just sold Clever, and I want to talk a little bit about that, but we've laid out this long path, and you are at 2.0, and I heard you both say you can do it all, you can have it all, you can live in alignment. And I also heard you say, I needed to go through that path to get to where I am today.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I'm so in love with my life right now. I feel so good about who I am, where I am. I probably pray 25 times a day, just being grateful to God of everything, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And I think I feel that way because I have such a great relationship with my new girlfriend. We are so dialed in with our alignment and our energy of where we're trying to go. I mean, we fight, don't get me wrong. Like, we're still normal humans, but like, I already know, like, that's good. And I'm in a better spot with my kids than I've ever been in my life. And I'm making more money than I've ever made. So I kind of feel like I have it all right now, and I wouldn't have gotten here unless I went through that pain. If I had a magic wand, it would have been, I should have went to therapy 20 years ago, healed all my shit. We all have, a bunch of bullshit that happens when we're kids. If you would have asked me when I was younger, did you have a good childhood? I would have probably said, yeah, because I've never been raped. My parents didn't leave me and abandon me. I didn't grow up, in a place with no plumbing. I had just enough. We were poor, but I had just enough to like kind of think like I just had a normal childhood. But then when you really start unpacking it, it's like, oh man, I did move 10 times by the time I hit 6th grade. My dad did, cheat on my mom. My mom did cheat on my dad with another woman, and I walked in on it. My grandpa did corner me when he used to live with us in a corner one day. He was a Pentecostal crazy person, and he started speaking in tongues for 10 minutes, and I was crying in the corner. I was probably like 9 years old, and he grabbed me and started shaking me and told me, someday you're going to be a pastor and lead a big flock. And I was like, fuck religion from that day forward. And I was like, oh, I did have some shit that I need to work through. It was my own shit. I did mature late, and didn't even grow until after high school. So my whole high school was fucking awful, and I was bullied all the time, and I was super immature looking and little looking, and everybody took advantage of it. I'm not saying to say all that to say, woe is me. I'm just saying I had my shit just like you have yours. And if I could go back and do anything, it'd be like, go handle that. Get to a place where you do unconditionally love yourself. Create better habits so that way you're proud of your actions and they're in alignment with your words and your thoughts. Because I would be so much farther along today if I would have just stopped hiding and covering it up and just kind of said, all right, let's deal with this. Because once you do, it's like 1,000-pound weight lifted off, and you don't do the red light shit. You don't get there. You stop at the yellow light and say, nah, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to be this guy.
Cody Sperber, if people want to learn more about you, what you're doing, Where do you want to point them?
Floor Daddy. No, I'm just kidding. At official Cody Sperber is my Instagram. I'm super active. It's great resetting the algorithm. I have a little account. I'm super interactive with it. I'm DMing with people all the time. I would love to hear your story. Whatever I'm saying resonates with you. Share your shit with me, and I'll support you back. I don't need anything from you. I don't want anything from you. But maybe there's a reason we end up someday in each other's lives. Who knows? Fuck. But besides that, that's it.
I love it, man. Appreciate you carving out the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Love it. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I need your help. There are 3 places you can find Beyond a Million. The podcast itself, beyondamillion.com, which has some cool free resources, including a free course. And we finally launched the Beyond a Million YouTube channel. I would love it if you would go there and subscribe. And if you don't want to, you still would probably enjoy seeing the visual content. Check it out, youtube.com/@Beyond a Million.